That's right, recording you. I'm talking shit about you while you're out of the room. Look at your shitty notes. Look at them all over there. Chicken scratch and shitty. Fucking amateur hour up in this bitch.
What up, and welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners. I am Nate, and I have a co-host, but I'm not introducing him yet. We are a full spoiler reread podcast of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin's first book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm going all sorts of which ways this time. I'm flip-flopping these fucking words. It's wild. Are you ready to speak? You look pretty offended. This is Zach, by the way.
You're the rudest individual I've ever met in my life. I'm Zach, and I'm the better of the two hosts, the one whose opinion matters.
Whoa.
Fuck you. I always give you decent introductions. That's not true. I call you Viserys a lot.
You're an asshole quite often.
I wonder why you act like Viserys.
Whoa. There he goes again with it.
Well.
Anyway, so last week we read... Who did we read last week? Shit.
Ned
6. So yeah, we just were listening to it a little bit. So Ned 6, where he did some stuff and things.
Really?
Yeah, you know, you're gonna make me look at my notes here. You can't jump in at all.
Ned was...
Oh, right, he went and met Gendry.
Yeah.
All right.
Pycelle.
Hey, I do a lot. I'm a busy man.
Okay.
Remembering all this stuff.
Yeah, Ned ended up, quite a few things happened, but he ended up mainly going to the Street of Steel and meeting with Robert Baratheon's bastard, Gendry, and sort of thinking he was beginning to put together the plot that is actually happening, which he's really nowhere near close to. He just found a bastard son, and he was basically just trying to follow Jon Arryn's trail and figure out what the fuck happened to Jon Arryn. And it wasn't going too well for him, but he thought he had a glimmer of hope there in meeting Gendry.
Right. So this week it looks like we're combining two chapters because the first one is fairly short and straight to the point.
Yeah, Catelyn 5.
There's a bit of history we'll go over, but it's fairly quick and simple.
A relatively short chapter.
The second one, we're not too sure about because Zach's notes are, fairly light and not in a bad way, but
half of yours.
Yeah, but I have crazy amounts, and so we don't know if we're gonna fly through the chapter.
So yeah, we've got Catelyn 5 and Sansa 2 on our plate today. We're not sure how long Sansa 2 is gonna run, so this episode might tend to be on a little bit of a longer side, but
we'll see what happens.
But diving right in, Catelyn and Ser Rodrik are riding along the King's Road during a rainstorm, and Ser Rodrik suggests that she covers her head lest she catch a chill.
Yeah, but she's enjoying the rain.
No, Catelyn says that the southern rain is soft and warm, and she really enjoys it, tells him it's only water, and she knows that her hair is just heavy and wet with it, but she enjoys it. She doesn't care. She imagines how ragged she must look, but she really just doesn't care.
And so she kind of reminisces a bit there about, her childhood and growing up in River Run and playing with her brother and sister and Peter and doing that kind of stuff. But Roderick he's not pleased. He's like, well, I don't want to be wet, so we need to stop soon, and he's saying that they're definitely going to be needing some fire and food soon.
Yeah.
So Kat mentions that up ahead, not too far, is an inn that she used to stay at as a little girl. And,
so it's the inn at the Crossroads.
Yes.
Which, Crossroads, is a big fucking theme of this. Crossroads, making decisions, choosing which life path to take.
Not to mention in the books that a lot of shit happens here in this specific spot.
Yeah, the inn is a very big set piece for a lot of future chapters.
We've already seen it in some past chapters, because this is the inn from Sansa chapter 1 that she sees as she's heading to the carriage, I think, or wherever Cersei was, or because that's where she was planning on having tea or some shit that day. And she sees this inn that everyone else was staying at and was just in awe at its size compared to stuff in Winterfell. Same inn. And it'll come up quite often.
Yeah, and Catelyn thinks that she had actually been to this inn a lot in her youth as well, that her father, Lord Hoster Tully, was a restless man, and he was always riding somewhere, and usually she went with him. She remembers the fat old not old when she was young, but the fat innkeep, Marcia Heddle, who chewed sour leaf and always had sweets and cakes for the children. And Catelyn had always liked the snacks, but dreaded the smiles because the sour leaf had stained Marcia's teeth a dark red and made her smile a bloody horror, which is just I like the imagery of that, so yeah. I wrote that down.
And so she's going to have a lot to do in the future as well, because, again, like, this is where Tywin's going to be staying when Tyrion comes down the mountain. This is where Arya and Hound
Tyrion's
visit
coming
at some
the
point.
Mountain when he comes.
And so, yeah, the Crossroads Inn is a busy spot in Westeros.
But Ser Rodrik thinks that an inn would be nice, but they should actually seek out a small holdfast instead if they wish to remain unknown and undetected. But Catelyn isn't that concerned about it. But up ahead, they start to hear the sound of riders and horses. And they come upon a column of armed...
That was just me making the horse sounds with my mouth. There weren't really horses here.
I'm sure you fooled absolutely no one.
Hey, just in case, I wanted nobody to think that we were being cruel to animals.
They come upon being cruel to ant. I fucking hate you. They come upon a column of armed men, and they're dressed in indigo surcoats, and Catelyn points them out for Malisters. Ser Rodrik,
is it Malisters? Like Alistair with no T?
Is it? I have
a
T
T.
in
I
mine.
wrote it down without a T. So who's wrong? Which of us
took.
is wrong? You're a fool of a took. Let me look.
Spell check.
That's right. Da-da-da-da. Oh boy.
You're terrible at this.
Get off my back, dog. I think I'm too far. There we go. And I lied. There. Let's pretend this never happened.
Malisters. Ser Rodrik actually names him, not Cat, but it says Ser Rodrik names him as if Cat didn't already knew. She had picked this out quite soon on.
Quickly.
But she doesn't move, and she's just studying the Lord Jason Mallister, and she's doing this quite boldly and openly. But he himself rides
without even glancing her way.
Yeah, he's surrounded by his knights and his squires and his son Patrick, and
she has a little tale about her wedding day, and he was there when she was married and hanging out with I want to say it was either her brother or Ben Stark. I can't remember which, but he just passes, and Rodrik comments what? Why didn't he recognize
him? Before that, she thinks to herself that the Mallisters are heading for King's Landing. They've already passed a ton of travelers that are heading south, so that's where Lord Jason's going for the Hands tournament. So I think it's interesting that in Ned's chapter we're getting Janos Slynt appealing to Ned for more men for the influx of people. And so we see Ned having to deal with it in the city, and now we see Catelyn not really having to deal with it.
No, it's funny, though, that you mentioned that, because I was going to bring it all up in Sansa's chapter as well, where we see all these people. It's kind of cool how Martin is staggering this length of time passing, where, Ned's last chapter, we saw him seeing Beric Dondarrion arrive at the gates. And then we jump into Catelyn's chapter here, and we are seeing Jason Mallister heading south for the tournament. Yeah. And then in the next chapter, Jason Mallister is in
the jousts.
And it's almost funny because people right now with the show are all, and even last season 7 there of the show, everyone was bitching about how quickly things jump and how the time skips and people all of a sudden are here. Martin did it.
Yeah, that's
way
a little
earlier,
more true to form.
But he, I guess, he just shows the level of his writing that he could make it.
Well, he has a lot of things creeping in the background, too, where the passage of time happens a lot of in the description of things, where it's just someone passing by is, someone we recognize from last chapter. They made it to this point by this chapter.
Right,
so,
exactly.
But yeah, she thinks that, the last time she saw her was when she was getting married, but she says that Lord Jason showed some years, but he rode like a man who feared nothing, and she envies him this because she had come to fear so much. And he nods curtly to her, just a lord's courtesy, that's all, and doesn't recognize her. And Rodrik is, a little prickly.
And she's basically breaks it down for him. We're mud-covered strangers, just travelers on the side of the road. Why would he think anything else of us?
Yeah.
And
she uses that to say,
exactly.
we'll be staying at the inn, because he couldn't recognize me, and so no one else will.
And what a terrible decision.
Yeah. It's near dark when they reach the inn, and they go inside, and they end up getting offered the last two rooms that are available, which are at the very top of the stairs, right under the bell tower, and it's disgustingly loud. But Marcia Heddle, who's a little older now, points out that they won't miss any meals because the bell rings for the meals. But they take the rooms because whatever. Marcia Heddle tells them to leave their boots at the door because she ain't having them tracking no mud in.
So Ken mentions that Marcia Heddle there is grayer and fatter than she remembers before, and she's not giving her the slight the smiles that she had as a child. And there's no mention of sweets and stuff, which who can blame her? Like, times are a bit hard, sure, for everybody. And then the fact that you're just a mud-covered stranger. Like, why would she offer this traveler? You know, you were the Lord's daughter back then. Like, Hoster Tully's fucking...
Yeah, you were almost expected to receive special
you're
treatment.
Practically royalty as the Warden of the East, or whatever the hell he is. I guess that was John Arryn, huh?
Yeah.
But whatever the fuck he is.
But Catelyn is sitting then in her room alone, and she's at the window, and she's sort of just ruminating on things, and she's thinking...
This is kind of where we're getting her crossroads.
She's thinking about the crossroads, and she says that west of here is River Run, and she yearns to speak with her father. She misses him greatly. Hoster Tully was someone she could trust and confide in, and he would give her sound and reasonable advice.
But at his age and his health, after being bedridden for 2 years...
Well, she thinks, too, that if Winterfell needs to prep for war, River Run needs to do so more so, because they're closer to King's Landing, which is actually a valid point. But her father's bedridden. She doesn't want to tax him any more than is necessary. And then she thinks that the East Road is wilder and more dangerous, climbing up into the Mountains of the Moon, and beyond that to the Vale of Arryn, and even beyond that to the Stony Fingers.
But then she would get the chance to talk to Lysa and
high above,
see if she could learn any new information about the stuff that Ned's looking into.
Yeah, Lysa might be sitting on some irrefutable proof, and Catelyn just doesn't know it, so she's debating that. What if I can go up there and all of the questions Ned's trying to answer are just answered? She's able to hand me a scroll, a book, a piece of parchment, whatever that is the smoking gun, essentially, and she just doesn't know. So she debates, but she thinks that road is dangerous. There's the mountain clans, and they're lawless. They will kill and rob anybody.
The Shadow Panthers, there's all sorts of shit.
Even John Arryn would ride in force when he crossed through the mountains, and Catelyn had one elderly knight who was armored only in loyalty, which I just like that line, armored only in loyalty. But
so she decides that the only choice is going home.
Her path is to the north, where her sons and her duty wait for her, which... I like that as well. That duty is important to her. Ned did task her with beginning preparations.
Right, so she mentions that her plan is going to be to get safely past the neck. Then she's going to announce who she is to one of her husband's bannermen and get all the orders that he gave her into effect, basically. So
and she starts thinking of that journey and the lords around her, of which she knew them all from a child. The Blackwoods and the Brackens, which are always fighting, and... They are, if you read any lore on Westeros, the Blackwoods and the Brackens. There's Lady Went of Harrenhal and Lord Frey and all of his children, and all of these are bannermen to Lord Tully, her father. But she starts to think that if her father called the banners, would it be enough? Would they even come?
Right.
And that's when we get the description of the late Lord Frey, who... basically
showed up at the very last second at the Battle of the Trident.
Yeah, sat until the last second to see who would win and sided with the side.
And Kat decides that it will not come to war. It can't.
They can't let it.
Right, but good luck.
Rodrik comes up to get her for dinner, and she tells him that until they pass the neck, they should pose as a father-daughter duo. He should stop calling her my lady. And they have a nice moment where he does just instinctually, and she laughs, and then she takes his arm, and they head down to dinner. And the benches are crowded.
Super crowded.
And we get this cool description of how this inn is sort of a mixing pot for all these different... There's a septa on the benches in between, like a blacksmith and a bard.
Right.
You know, it's just...
There's all sorts of travelers and townsfolk mingling.
So this is a place that we're told basically where a lot of news is exchanged, a lot of word is spread.
I mean, because it's
tales are told.
This meeting point for every part of the realm.
literal crossroads, where you pick a cardinal direction,
Yeah, you
and
have
you can get
King's
there.
Landing, you have the Vale, you have River Run, you
And
have
it's
Winterfell, all in different directions.
Also, obviously, it's a crossroads for Catelyn. This is a decision point, and as we get into the final part of this chapter, this is the path she chooses. Essentially, is she's planning to go to Winterfell right now and continue home and do what Ned
And
said.
just imagine how much would have been different.
And
if
a
she just
monkey
stuck to
wrench,
that
exactly.
plan.
A monkey wrench is about to be thrown in that, and she's about to change her trajectory. So, there's a lot more swords in this room than Catelyn likes, and she just notes that there's 3 Brackens, a group of Freys, all young and all too young to know her. So she's trying to find like a familiar face, someone she could maybe say like, "Hey, I'm fucking Lady Catelyn. Like, can you get me?"
But
north?
at the same time, she's also looking for familiar faces to go, I need to sit far away from that
Well, yeah,
person.
to
I
scout
need
out
make sure
any
this
danger.
person won't recognize me.
And so Rodrik finds them seats at a bench across from a man who's playing a wood harp.
A little bard.
And he greets them, and Rodrik greets him very stiffly that he wants basically nothing to do with it, but he rapid fire questions at them. Where are you? Where are you coming from? What are you doing? Are you heading to the King's Tourney?
And that's not even, like, that's just the nature of the crossroads, the
Yeah.
inn here, that people are chatty. You're sitting across from them. Hey, let's chat because we're sitting close. That's what you do here at the crossroads.
And he's a singer, a musician, and Catelyn chooses to answer the safest question, which I don't really know if this is valid, but she says that they left King's Landing a fortnight ago, and the singer chimes in then with that's where he's going for the hands tournament. And as Catelyn expects, that he's more interested in telling his story than hearing theirs, so she's willing to let him just talk, and he does.
So he starts mentioning how he lost his money, and I liked how he lost it betting on the Kingslayer during the last tournament. And
I liked Ser Rodrik. The gods frown on the gambler. Like, all right, Rodrik, chill.
All right, buddy. And I just like that he lost all his fortune gambling on the Kingslayer. She's about to have Tyrion arrested for losing his knife betting against.
Yeah, the same circumstances.
And so but Jaime won, didn't he?
No, that was the supposed thing.
I thought it was because he bet on.
No, Littlefinger supposedly bet on Jaime, and Tyrion bet on the Knight of the Flowers, and that's what the big shocker was.
Right.
And that's what doesn't make sense, is Tyrion would have bet on Jaime. Jaime lost that.
Myself
that
there. I was gonna say that's how I had it, but I.
So the singer the food is brought, and Rodrik just immediately jumps in, and the singer introduces himself as Marillion,
whatever it is.
Marillion, that works. And
he offers to sing,
which, remember that name because he pops up all throughout the fucking series. And Catelyn starts asking him a little bit because she's more amused by him. She knows his type, and she mentions River Run, asks him if he's ever made it there, and he says that they keep a chamber for him at River Run, and that the young lord there is like his brother.
Well, it's funny because before he got into that, he had said, if they had a couple coppers, that he'd sing a song for them. And Rodrik was like, well, we got coppers, but that's there's nothing more likely to ruin my meal than to hear you fucking howling on. And that's when Cat starts kind of asking him about his travels and his adventures.
Yeah, and he says that, they keep a room for him at River Run, and the young lord is like a brother. And Cat just wonders what Edmure would think of that, because Edmure had a lady friend stolen from him by a musician, and he came to detest their kind after that. So
this guy's just doing that, which isn't, again, an uncommon thing, I'm sure, with especially a bard of all people, to boast and make these.
He's just hyping himself up.
Exactly.
He's got to be his own hype man. And so she asks about Winterfell and if he's ever made it up there, and he answers with a, why the fuck would I go up there, basically.
Yo, it's cold and empty, there's no reason, who am I going to sing for?
But as he's answering, Catelyn hears the door bang open, and she hears a servant call out that, the horses need this and that, and my Lord of Lannister requires a room and a hot bath. And Rodrik immediately goes into oh shit mode, and Cat tries to sort of chill him out, and she sees that there's 4 of them: an old man of the Night's Watch, Yoren, 2 servants, and Tyrion Lannister, small and bold as life. And Marcia Hedda tells them that they're full up, there's no room, so Tyrion, being Tyrion, pulls out a coin and starts flipping it and catching it, and, surely we can rectify this situation type thing. And one of the free riders speaks up, which, Bronn? Bronn?
What, you think so?
Bronn?
I mean, because he did pick up his sack of gold, I think it mentioned, and he was kind of chinking that around when he pulled some gold out of it. And, I mean, sure, possibly. That definitely seems like the...
I mean, I believe it is, like, Catelyn's next chapter that we get Bronn, where, like, the free rider comes with him. So, I'm assuming this is Bronn, and that's when Tyrion... Now, there's a clever man, so Tyrion asks for food, and as he asks for food, Catelyn thinks, and may he choke on it. But it was Bran she sees choking, drowning on his own blood. Yeah. Which is just a brutal, like, all right, Catelyn, chill. So, yeah, Tyrion orders his food and asks Yorn to sup with him, and Yorn agrees.
Upstairs in his room, privately. And he starts to make his way towards the stairs, and Cat is basically relieved that she was able to go unnoticed.
Yeah. Until...
Motherfucking Marillion.
The goddamn bard jumps up and starts calling, "My Lord of Lannister, please let me sing to you while you sup."
And so I technically gave Rodrik Tyrion's quote, but he says, because Marillion was offering to sing him the song of the Sack of King's Landing, basically. Yeah. And Tyrion said, "Nothing would ruin my fucking dinner more than hearing you sing anything, especially probably to do with Tywin, fucking in general."
And Tyrion, looks from the singer over to Catelyn, and he smiles and tells her, "Lady Stark, I was very sorry to have missed you at Winterfell."
He noticed her fucking immediately.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the company you keep, and Tyrion Lannister is very interested in the company anybody keeps that he has an engagement with. And so Cat rises to her feet. And this is when she, like, because Marsha Heddle, even Catelyn Stark, like everyone's pretty dumbfounded. And she says, "I was still Catelyn Tully last I was here." And then she begins looking around at all the knights and the sworn swords and thinks to herself, does she dare risk it? And she decides to. So she calls to Lady Went's man first, asking if Lady Went remains a true friend to her father. And he answers in affirmation. He does. Or she does, my lady. And Tyrion's just blinking at her in confusion.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what's happening.
Exactly.
So she calls out to the Brackens. And again, they agree that Lord Oster Tully, we're great friends. Our houses are great friends. And Tyrion says that, "I envy your father all his fine friends, but I don't quite see the purpose in all this." And then Catelyn sees the phrase and thinks that they were the very heart of the matter, as there's 20 of them. And she greets them and asks how their father fares, and we learn that Lord Walder plans to take another wife and has invited Catelyn's father to visit in the wedding celebration. And this is when Tyrion sniggers, and Catelyn knew she had him.
Because of the fact that the Freys were still inviting her father to weddings. Mm-hmm. So they're still loyal, still on good terms.
Well, that and the fact that Tyrion mocks Lord Frey.
Right.
They're a prickly house. So this is when she drops the bomb. "This man came a guest into my house, and there conspired to murder my son, a boy of 7. And this is when Rodrik stands up and moves to her side, and he's got his sword out. It's out. He's ready to go. And she says that, "In the name of King Robert and the good lords you serve, I call upon you to seize him and help me return him to Winterfell to await the king's justice." And they do. They all unsheathe.
And she says she doesn't know what was more satisfying. Dozens of swords being drawn at the same time, or the look on Tyrion's face.
So... tactical error on Catelyn's part?
Yeah. I mean,
This is a fucking mistake, right?
I absolutely.
And this is the chapter end, for if we weren't clear enough. This is where the chapter closes. And yeah, this is a mistake. Tyrion had nothing to do with
no
this.
idea with anything.
I mean, this is just adding fuel to Littlefinger's fire.
Yeah.
Of just...
because he has no idea. There's no proof. There's no evidence. And you just fucking...
You take him.
Jump the gun.
You just take him. Like, in front of everyone at this crossroads. This... both
Catelyn just started
physical
the war.
And...
this is the start of the war.
Yeah.
Right
This
here.
is when Jaime's...
I mean, yeah, technically the dominoes were tipped by Littlefinger. This is the true public
But Catelyn makes
start.
an error here, and it comes back to...
So let's real quick give an inductee, and then
mine's Rodrik.
Right
in his hatred for the fucking singer, because I'm right there with you, Rodrik. I don't want to listen to you prattling on while I'm trying to eat my meal. So good on you, Rodrik.
Mine was gonna go to Marillion for basically just boasting like he's crazy. He reminds me of Sir Creighton.
Great. Now dinner's going to be awkward with
stroking himself
Rodrik and
to
Marillion.
True story. But at least I'll get a song out of Marillion. Rodrik will be over there insulting him, so it'll be all worth it.
That's sure.
So with that, or as we would do normally, last week, if you joined us, we were reading Catelyn. What chapter were we reading?
Are you serious?
Catelyn 5.
So from the mother to the daughter.
Yeah, Sansa 2.
Sansa got to ride to the Hands tournament with Septa Mordane and Jane Poole in a litter with curtains of yellow silk so fine she could see right through them. Immediately, we get this direct contrast to, and this pairing I didn't even realize was so good. Catelyn's dirty, mucky, out in the rain, but she's loving it. And Sansa's
these silky curtains, it says that it made everything outside, the whole world, appear gold. And it's just building up this false pretense
it's like
of the world.
I think the color is changing, it's rose-colored goggles.
Yeah, so the splendor took Sansa's breath away. The shining armor, the giant chargers, the noise of all the crowd.
Banners in the wind, the knights and the knights.
And she whispers basically to herself that it's better than the songs, which, I don't think we know it quite yet, but we learn that she just puts a lot of stock into the songs. All those folk songs, which is, again, funny that we were just sitting there with a bard with her mother. Yeah. And now these different songs. She would have loved to hear some songs.
She thinks that of all the things, it's the knights themselves. The knights, most of all. They are living up to every expectation she's ever had. So they find their place among the high lords and ladies.
A spot that was promised to them by her father.
And we get that Sansa was dressed beautifully today in a green gown that brought out the auburn in her hair. And she knew that they were all looking at her and smiling. She is just on cloud.
She's the belle of the ball.
Fucking 9.
And so they all sit down and they just watch as all the different knights come riding in. And so she gives
heroes of 100 songs, she says.
It starts with like the King's Guard is there and they're dressed in all their white armor and their white cloak, except for Jaime, who has the white cloak, but he has his own little lion helm, and he's covered in the red and gold of Lannister.
And he's got the golden sword,
And the golden sword, right.
We get Ser Gregor Clegane, the mountain that ride, who thunders past like an avalanche.
Which, just really gives an idea of how fucking big that monster is.
And Sansa remembers Jan Royce, who had stayed at Winterfell 2 years previously.
I love which it's bullshit, but Sansa whispers into Jane Poole that, he came up and fought and did some stuff up at Winterfell, but they say that his armor is thousands of years old. And it's covered in runes to help ward him against harm.
Yeah, well, we'll see how you do in the list.
Yeah, no shit.
Royce. So Septa Mordane then points out Lord Jason Mallister.
And so this is clearly a bit after Tyrion's been captured. Tyrion is now in custody. We are not sure yet.
It has to be probably at least a week. I'd say maybe even 2, 3. Yeah. There's a good passage of time here, and then it mentions that the girls had giggled over the warrior priest Thoros of Myr with his flapping red robes and his shaving head. How dare you? Then Septa motherfucking Mordane steps in, and she's like, "Oh, you think it's funny? Well, Thoros of Myr scaled the motherfucking walls of Pike with a flaming goddamn sword. So, like,
come at him, bro."
And they stopped laughing after that. There were other riders she didn't know, from the Fingers, from Highgarden, from the Mountains of Dorne.
Just a bunch of hedge knights.
Unsung free riders, High Lord's sons, the heirs of lesser houses, just a bunch of nobodies. But Sansa and Jane...
Take note that Squires is also mentioned in there.
Yeah. Sansa and Jane agree that the Seven Kingdoms would soon enough sound to all of their names because it's just glorious. Everything's fucking glorious.
Everything's great.
And so
Jane Poole mentions that she's scared of one of the fighters, Jalabar Jo,
which is just nice way. It's a nice way of saying that she's a fucking racist. Yeah, Jane Poole's a fucking racist.
Because she then declared that she would marry Lord Beric Dondarrion that instant if given the chance. Yeah. Which, I mean, we didn't let him lead us for no reason.
No, I mean she's just like Sansa. She's got her flights of fancy.
Exactly.
But I'm really like Jane Poole's a racist. Like 2K19, fuck off, Jane
She's
Poole.
A terrible person.
Because like Jalabar Zo has like a sweet cape of green and scarlet feathers that I just really like. Yeah. Like he to me in my head is such a cool looking character.
I bet he because it makes me I don't know. I just feel like he would have like a badass spear. Single blade at the end, just fucking twirling that shit all over in Martell, badass with that dope ass cape fluttering behind him. It'd be a pretty sick
Now you're
thing to
lumping
see.
every person in with Dorne.
Oh
Jesus.
my
You too. You and Jane Poole. But anyway,
Wow.
yeah.
So then
the Hound entered the lists, and as did Renly, the king's brother, as did Jory, Allen, and Harwin. They were riding for Winterfell. This tournament is huge.
And so now, as it goes from telling who's entering, it starts it rolls right into the battlement that's actually going on.
I thought it was interesting that as we get that Jory, Allen, and Harwin are riding for Winterfell, Septa Mordane points out that Jory looks a beggar among all these others, which is just interesting because I think right there, that's a little bit of where Sansa gets this vanity from.
Well, that's
this woman who, like...
Oh, look how
this. I mean, this is her house, essentially. She, I know she's a Septa and she shouldn't, but, like, she watches these children. Jory essentially helps protect her, and...
Yeah, and in the description, though, and it completely encompasses the North, his armor is practical.
Yeah, it's basic and practical. It's nothing
it does what it needs to do.
or ornate. Yeah. It's not overly detailed. Anyway, we get into a little bit. Jory handles himself like a boss.
Yeah, he goes a few good tilts.
He lost to a free rider named Lothar Brune.
Alan Harwin, not so much.
Harwin lost his first hill by Ser Meryn, and Alan fell to Ser Baelon Swan. And the jousting goes all day into dusk, and
anytime a guy would fall off of his horse, Jane Poole would shriek, whereas Sansa, she was her proper little
was
lady.
Made of sterner stuff. Yeah, is what she thinks to herself. Which, like, all right, Sansa. And she knew, that a great lady knew how to properly behave at tournaments and not shriek and cover her eyes. And even the Septa noticed and nods her approval. So again, Septa, you're a bad fucking influence. Like, I'm onto your shit. So Jaime Lannister rode brilliantly, beating Sir Andar Royce and Lord Bryce Caron easily. He then won a very hard-fought match against Barristan Selmy, who Barristan himself won his first 2 tilts against men 30 and 40 years his junior. Yeah. Barristan is holding shit down, and even now he could cut through the 5 of you like carving a cake.
Yes. So then it goes into the Hound and Mountain, who just seem unstoppable.
Dynamic duo.
Sansa then goes into the most terrifying moment of the tournament.
Yep.
And it was the Mountain was jousting against a man, and his lance went up underneath the guy's helm into his neck, and that guy's fucking dead.
Yeah, it struck a young knight from the Vale up under his gorget, whatever that is called. Gorget.
Sure.
And it hit with such force that it killed him instantly. He fell not 10 feet from Sansa, with the snapped lance still stuck in his neck and his lifeblood flowing out in pulses. Do you want to just, like, obviously we know that this is Sir Hugh of the Vale.
Yeah.
This is Jon Arryn's squire, recently knighted squire. And so we find out a little later that Sir Gregor doesn't miss things, and that his gorget wasn't fastened.
Yeah, a little later in the chapter, the Hound's going to explain that, Sir Gregor Clegane was aware of the fact that it was fucked. And he did this on purpose.
This was a setup. He was murdered here.
This was purely... Now, who... Was it someone was supposed to be helping him get ready? Was it the person that helped him get ready fucked him? Was it that Gregor was tipped off? Because, it could be
Well, also, like, what is it that Sir Hugh of the Vale did that... Because, again, I can't recall if this gets...
Now, see, the reason that Sir Hugh of the Vale, it's because Littlefinger had mentioned that was one of the ones that had information.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm wondering what Sir Hugh of the Vale did to get knighted. Oh, like, how did he betray Jon Arryn? Because clearly he did something to have some association in his death to get knighted right after. Right. And left behind by, it is a little interesting that with Lysa Arryn taking all the household guard and everything back to the Eyrie, that he stayed. So clearly he did something, and his reward was getting knighted. And then right after, he's a loose end, so let's clear him off the board. So just, it feels like Cersei to me. But
see, that's what it
really who's got their finger in this pot? Who gave Gregor the order to...
But I feel like, it has something to do with some strings Littlefingers.
I agree as well. So, He dies, and
right in front of Sansa, and she again mentions how it didn't how she should be way worse and more terrified than she is.
Jane Poole is fucking hysterical. Yeah. So hysterical that Septa Mordain has to take her off to regain her composure. But Sansa sits, hands folded, watching with a strange fascination. She had never seen a man die, and she starts to think that she should cry, but she can't. And maybe she used up all her tears. They dried up for Bran and Lady. And then she thinks maybe it would be different if it was Jory or Alan, her father, or...
somebody she gave a shit
about. The Knight of the Vale of Arryn was nothing to her, she thinks.
Yeah,
and so they carry off the body, they cover up the blood, and they resume the jousts. Moving on.
So... Jesus Christ, that's cold, man.
Chalk it up to an accident, man.
And... so, yeah, it mentions the Hound in the Mountain fighting a little more. The Mountain... was it the Mountain? Yeah, Mountain... dehorsed
Balin Swan.
Renly. The Hound got Balin Swan, didn't he?
Other way around.
Oh, okay, so I had it backwards.
Yeah, Balin Swan fell to Gregor Clegane, and Renly fell to the Hound.
Yeah.
Renly was unhorsed violently.
Yeah, and he was a crowd favorite. Yeah. So he fell, cracked his head back.
His head hit the crowd.
Audible crack.
The crowd lost their shit, thinking that he was hurt, but it was just an antler from his helm.
Which he tossed and gave to his victor, and the Hound was like, fuck your trophy shit, and he threw it into the audience, and they lose their shit and start fighting, mobbing.
It just, this whole tournament to me just feels like an episode of old WWF Raw, like that we would watch, like where the Hound is the heel and Renly is the babyface, and like, you know,
John Cena takes off
like,
his it's John Cena!
Fuck John Cena. I'm saying WWF,
but
not
he pulls
WWE.
off like his armband and throws it into the crowd.
Well, like no, because the Hound is the bad guy, so like he's inadvertently hyping up the crowd and like, but still hyping up the crowd. And fuck you with your John Cena bullshit. I said WWF, not WWE.
I think he was there at the beginning, wasn't he?
No, he wasn't. He was not.
All right.
On Fight Me, fuck off with your John Cena shit. You just stomped all over my WWF reference.
Anyway, Mordain shows up without Jane Poole.
Sansa had forgotten about her anyway.
Right.
Who cares?
And she mentions that Jane Poole isn't feeling too well. She's going to head home. Bitch is not able to stand the sight of blood, apparently.
Yeah, whatever.
So, it's almost funny how naive and simple and gentle almost she is here.
Sansa or
Jane Poole, compared to the trials and tribulations of her future.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jane Poole and Sansa are one and the same. They just have very, very different routes to take, I think. And so it says that later on, a hedge knight in a checkered cloak disgraced himself by killing Beric Dondarrion.
Not our dog.
God damn it. Beric Dondarrion's horse, when Beric changed horses. Beric then changed horses, but was felled by Thoros of Myr, which is interesting.
Yeah, I thought
they end up as little traveling companions. But in the end, it comes down to 4. The Hound, the Mountain, Sir Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer, and Sir Loras Tyrell, the Knight of Flowers.
Now, Loras is fucking 16.
Yeah.
Now, this is the age that Jaime, I believe, was when he won the tournament at Harrenhal. I don't think he won it, but he
jousted in it or something.
He did really well in it, and so he was knighted there. And so, yeah, Loras Tyrell is just the most beautiful man.
He's the youngest son of Mace Tyrell, who is the Lord of Highgarden and Warden of the South. And yeah, he's the youngest on the field today, but he's already on horse 3 Kingsguard night that morning. Yeah. And those were his first 3 jousts, supposedly. Sansa had never seen anything so beautiful in a goddamn life.
And so after each win, he would basically pull a fucking Rhaegar and go and give a rose, a white flower.
Well, we get a description of how
Galleon.
He has an enameled, ornate bouquet of 1,000 different flowers on his armor, and his snow white stallion was draped with a blanket of red and white roses. And yeah, after each round, he would go and pluck a white rose and hand it to a maiden. He rode around like 80 times just milking this shit, and then he finally would give a rose to a fair maiden. And so the last match,
they do that at medieval times.
They do that at medieval times. I wanted one, sick. But I didn't get one. I'm not a fair maiden.
That's okay. You're definitely not fair.
The last day, I'm definitely not a maiden.
That could be debatable.
The last match of the day was Loras against Sir Robar. Sir Robar Royce. Sir Robar loses, but Sansa doesn't really care anyway because she only had eyes for Loras.
Yes.
And even when Robar's laying there a little hurt, she doesn't care because she only has eyes for fucking Loras. And when his horse ever stops in front of her, my God, does her heart almost explode.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
That was
He gives her a red rose instead of the common basic bitch white rose that all the other hoes got.
And he tells her, no victory is as beautiful as you, my lady. And she melted into the fucking ground.
Yeah, eggs be dropping all over this bitch. Sansa takes the flower, dumbstruck by his gallantry. And she just, everything, she breathes in the scent of him, and she's just holding on to this image.
And this is the funniest
Long
shit
after
I've
he
ever...
rides off, Loras is done with her because he's probably got a meeting with Renly somewhere.
Yeah.
And she opens her eyes.
And the creepiest shit ever.
It's the best. Littlefinger just looming there.
Right there, just staring at her.
And he says that, you must be one of her daughters. You look like her. And we get this description from Sansa's point of view that he was short with a pointed beard and a silver streak in his hair. And he had gray-green eyes that did not smile when his mouth did. And Sansa's uneasy as shit. And she's like,
the pedo of pedos just fucking stepped up too bad.
And she's like, I'm sorry, like, I don't know you.
I like that of all people, the most naive one, Sansa, is the one who can see that his eyes don't smile.
His smile's not genuine.
There's something strange
So
there.
Septon Mordain speaks up and introduces him. This is Lord Peter Baelish, the king's own master of coin. And he just walks up to her. And, like, dead at people, listeners, we got a thing, right? Like, you know I wouldn't lie to you. Littlefinger walks up to this young girl and says, your mother was my queen of beauty once. And then he brushes her cheek hair thing. And then just abruptly fucking turns and leaves.
Like, up. What the fuck was that about?
What the fuck, Peter?
What was he doing there? Besides hovering and staring at her because her eyes are closed and she doesn't notice him.
I legit think this is the one true peek we get, like one of the few true peeks we get at him, where it's his infatuation with Kat. He needs to see her daughter to see. Yeah, and he's just a creep about it. It's a fucking weird attraction.
I think he is one breaking and entering away from running into what's-his-face from 60 Minutes to Catch a Predator. Like,
why don't you take a seat there?
Like, why don't you have a seat there?
Why don't you have a seat right there?
Actually, Kat.
Actually, Sansa, let me smash. Sansa, let me smash.
Sansa.
So, like, yeah, just fucking, like, Creeper 2, Return of Littlefinger. Just, like, such a skirt in this chapter where all of a sudden...
And then he's gone.
And then he's just gone.
And so that's... Apparently it's also nighttime now.
Yeah, the day ends, and so the High Lords and Ladies, the jousting's done, the king calls an end to the day, and the High Lords and Ladies head to the riverside where dinner is being prepared, sort of in a fun... We're outdoors because it's a tournament thing. It's like it's fucking middle school.
And she's feeling pretty honored on top of the great day she's had so far, barring Peter Baelish being fucking Creeper of the Year. And now she gets a place of honor beside the king's dais up on her own little raised platform.
Her and the Septa.
Yeah.
Like, damn, Septa, not a bad job. And then she damn near just soils herself when Joffrey sits down next to her and it's like, yo, what up, bitch?
And yeah, she's freaking out.
They haven't spoken since the shit on the King's Road.
And she thought at first she did hate him, but now she realized that she doesn't hate him. It wasn't his fault at all.
It wasn't his doing.
It
Not
was
really.
The queen and that Arya.
Well, it says, yeah, the queen did it. She was the one to hate. Her and Arya. Nothing would have happened if not for Arya. Arya. So, yeah, no, she's literally talked herself into forgiving Joffrey for being a fucking shit. But she says that she couldn't hate Joffrey tonight because he's just too beautiful. He's just too...
so beautiful.
And I like, it was a long description of Joffrey's armor, but I just put Joff looking fresh. Because, like, he is, he's decked out in some, like, jeweled fucking, like, crown shit. He's got lions all over and, like, rubies. Like,
so Sansa was panicked as fuck that he was either going to completely ignore her for the entire night, or just be the meanest cunt
turn
on
hateful
the face
again,
of the planet.
But instead, he takes her hand and kisses it and smiles And it says that he is handsome and gallant as any prince in the songs. Now, this is the third time, Sansa. Girl, third time we mention these fucking songs. Like, you need to get over this shit.
Over it.
Says us that are, like, literally living in a book.
Yeah,
and
no
that's,
shit.
like, what we do.
So he says, Sir Loras has a keen eye for beauty. Shut up.
So, one, like, I think all of these lines are very important. Like, I'm so excited to get here because I have such a good point to make about Joffrey. So, yeah, he asks about that, and he says, she just like, oh, God, like, Joffrey. At first, Sir Loras says, I'm beautiful. Now, Joffrey's saying it. And then she asks, do you think he will win tomorrow in the jousts? And Joffrey, like, I feel like for a minute slips back in. He's like, no, my dog will do for him, or my uncle. And then, of course, then when I'm old enough, I'll do for them all. Like, ah. And so Joffrey stops the servant girl. He's like, hey, and he gets some summer wine. And he himself
wine.
He pours for Sansa.
A toothpick.
Sansa gets.
Can I get
a toothpick? And so Sansa gets a little concerned about drinking, but the Septa's eyeing her, and then Joffrey pours the Septa some, and he's just like, shut up, bitch.
Like a nice tall glass.
Yeah. And so that's when the Septa shuts up and doesn't say anything.
And from that point on, their cups were never empty.
But Sansa didn't need the wine because she's drunk on the night. The magic of the night.
She is drunk on the magic of the day.
And it's basically, I mean, as much as we're shitting on it, like, it is like she fell into a song because we get, like, this is
a wonderful tournament.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
there's singers, there's jugglers, there's the King's Own Fool, the Moon Boy, who's very sharp in his wit and very clever in insulting people, and even the Septa is laughing and having a good time.
Yeah.
And
to where she's spilling wine all over her. She's a mess. You're a fucking mess.
And so it is like she fell into the song, and Joffrey is the soul of courtesy, it says.
So
spending all night talking to her.
Why do you think that is?
I'll get there. I think I know exactly why that is. So he's making her laugh. He's talking with her, you know, coming back and forth. Then the food comes, and there's a ton of courses. Another great description of Martin's feast, but I'm not going to get too into it. But Joffrey essentially is helping her crack open the oysters, the clams.
Yeah, he's helping her
he's
eat her
feeding her. It's fucking adorable, except for the
shit.
fact that he's a psychopath. And she notices his arm, that it's still hurting him, yet he hasn't complained not all night. And so he's just a fucking hero.
So then she was diving into the desserts because she's having some lemon cakes, which are just her favorite. Oh my goodness.
Well, she could only fit 2 though, because she ate a lot.
And so she's gonna try. She's thinking about trying to fit a third one when there's some yelling.
Yeah, and she thinks that she knows it's the king yelling no, but she thinks that he'd gotten louder with each course.
Robert's getting trashed.
Normally just some yelling, like a yelled command or a laugh, but Sansa couldn't really make it out because they were pretty far away. But now everyone hears him, and he yells no again, and he's standing red-faced, reeling, drunk as a man could be, yelling, "You don't tell me what to do, woman!" And he is staring at the queen. "If I say that I'll fight tomorrow, I am the king, and I will fight." So yeah, Robert wants to fight in the tournament, and Cersei clearly told him no because that's what needs to happen, actually. Right. And everyone's staring. Barristan Selmy, Renly, but no one is getting involved because it's the king and he's drunk. And it says that the queen's face is a mask, bloodless.
So basically she's pale as fuck.
Yeah, and she stands and gathers her skirts up around her and her servants, and she storms off in silence. And Cersei's done. Boom.
She's pissed.
Get out of here. Jaime.
Yes.
So, going back to Joffrey now.
Yes, real quick back to Joffrey.
So, I think this right here tells us all we need to know. The courtesy, I believe, came from his mother, taking Sansa and being kind to her and everything. I'm certain Cersei told him, you need to do this. This is your betrothed. Then he sees his father
mistreating her,
fucking screaming at her, and Joffrey immediately goes cold from this point on.
So part of me was thinking that he was going cold just because he's embarrassed, but I think that makes way more sense.
It's the little kid at the dinner table, where like our parents are fighting, and so now I'm mad at my brother, my little brother, or I'm mad at my friend because my parents are fighting and I don't know how. Joffrey's doing the same thing. He just, he was having a good time doing what his mother asked, and I think enjoying himself a little bit. And then,
because we also and we'll learn eventually that Joffrey, he looks up to Robert.
Yeah.
Like, as much as, you know, we as the readers know that that's not his father, that's, you know, that's who he's
That's who he believes
it's his
entirely
dad,
is,
and he wants to be just like him, but he's a little more
and
frail.
And that's
he's
it. I mean,
not-
I am the king. I will fight him. Like, Robert throws this I am the king thing around. So, like, that's where Joffrey gets it. Jaime Lannister puts a hand on the king's shoulder here, and the king shoves him off and knocks him to the ground and tells him that I can still knock you in the dirt. Remember that, Kingslayer.
And
these behaviors, Joffrey. This is what Joffrey is now zoned in on.
Yeah, that's it.
And it was just this turn of like, oh, my mother told me to be courteous and everything, but my father, the king,
the one
doesn't
that's really
listen
in charge,
to the women.
He says, "Fuck that."
Women
bitch.
are dumb and shouldn't.
And so Jaime gets up, and you know Robert's still boasting, you know, give me my warhammer, no one can stand in front of me. And Jaime's, you know, yes,
as you say,
lord.
Your Grace. Yep.
And
Renly runs up and returns his gives him another goblet.
More to drink.
You drop your goblet here. Let me get you another
Enabler.
one. Well, that's it. And, like, what can you do? He's the king.
Right.
If he's drunk enough, he could fucking order you to death, and it'll be done. Like, you have to. So Joffrey touches her arm, and she jumps.
Scares her, yeah.
And it says that he has an odd look on his face, like he isn't seeing her at all. At this point, it's what his mother told him, but he's done. Right.
And I think part of it is, again, you know, my parents just had this big fuck.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm almost embarrassed. I want to get the fuck out of here, too. But like you said, there's also that now.
Yeah, and he tells her, you know, it's getting late. Do you need an escort back to the castle? And Sansa looks over at Septa, and Septa is passed the fuck
She
out.
partied hard.
Like, goddamn. Septa's snoring, very unladylike. And so Sansa agrees that, yeah, it's getting late, and it's a little scary. So, yeah, I could use an escort. This will be nice, walking back to the castle with you. It'll be nice. Dog! And
I love
Sandor
this.
Clegane seems to take form out of the night with how quickly he appears to Joffrey's summons. He's changed his clothes. He's in a red tunic now.
Looking fresh himself.
Of course. And Joffrey tells him, take my betrothed to the castle and see that no harm befalls her. And without a word of farewell, Joffrey pulls a little finger and turns and scoots.
Just
Bye.
Disappears.
And again, I think he just saw his parents going.
Well, and
he's going to disrespect the
that's
woman.
what
just
his
like
mother
his father
just did too,
yeah,
though. Was just turned and walked away.
Yeah.
Just fucking the end.
Sansa can feel the Hound watching her. Just his little scary eyes.
And he starts laughing because he knows what everybody else was led to believe, that Joffrey himself would be walking.
Yeah, you thought Joffrey was going to take you himself, and he laughs. That sounds like the snarlings of dogs in a pit.
Love that.
And Sansa's suddenly terrified, so she starts shoving the scepter to wake her up, but that's a no-go.
Yeah, and so the Hound just grabs her, scoops her up, and sets her on her feet. Like, no, we're going.
Sansa thinks that the feast was over, and the beautiful dream had ended with it. Like, now we're back in scary King's Landing, and it's nighttime, and you're with the Hound. So
and he's like, let's go. We're
grabs,
going.
he
You're not
grabs
the
a
only
torch.
one that's fucking tired. I've been drinking, and I might have to kill my brother tomorrow. She's freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, so he grabs a torch, he's leading her, and she keeps her eyes down because she can't bear the sight of him.
That, and, you know, the ground's uneven. She's pretty drunk herself, so she doesn't want to trip.
He frightens
as well.
her, but she was a proper lady, so she tells him that you rode gallantly today, Sir Sandor.
Sir Sandor. Sounds so fucking weird.
Sir Sandor, yeah. And he tells her, spare me your empty little compliments, girl. I'm no knight, and I spit on them in their vows. Did you see my brother ride today? He's a knight. What did you think of him? And she trembles and starts to mumble something, and he asks, was he gallant? And he
and she realizes he's mocking her.
Yeah.
And no one could withstand him.
And she's proud of herself for this.
For coming with this,
because it wasn't a lie.
Right.
It was a courtesy,
and
it was a
Sandor
compliment.
Just fucking stops, and because he knows exactly what she did.
Yeah.
Why she was doing it. Now, do you because he's going to go into some detail here before I do that. Do you think he was aware of the plot? The actual plotting of Hugh of the Vale being killed, or do you think that he chalked it up on his brother just taking advantage of an unarmored?
I think that I don't think he cares enough about some up-jump knight. He hates fucking knights. So like, and I think that's what this is more of, is he watches his brother like a hawk because of how much he fucking hates him.
But yeah, so he stops and he calls her a little bird, saying that, You're like one of those little birds from the Summer Isles. The ones that repeat all the little pretty lies or pretty little lies that they taught you.
Pretty
to
Little
say.
Words.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty Little Lies. That show that I've never seen.
Yeah. Some septa trained you well. Like.
Yeah.
He's onto her. You're just reciting these courtesies because that's what you were told to do. And she tells him that you're frightening me. And
she wants to go.
She wants to go. And that's when he sort of starts talking, but not even like to her. He just says that no one could ever withstand Gregor. And goes into the tournament a little bit, that fool boy of a knight had no business being out there today. And this is when we get that his gorget wasn't fastened properly. And he asks her, you think Gregor didn't notice that? You think his lance just happened to ride up by chance? And he, at this point, grabs her.
Because she's just completely avoiding his gaze. And he's terrified. Like, look at me. Look at me.
Yeah, he forces her to look and says, take a good long stare. I watched you turning away all down the King's Road. Piss on that. Basically, have a good long look.
Fuck that. Look.
And so she notes that, and so at this point, yeah, his fingers are holding her jaw and his eyes are boring into her. This is the Hand's daughter.
His eyes are watching her eyes to make sure she's looking deeply
this
in
is
her
the
face.
Hand. I understand he's the prince's dog,
but he's drunk.
This is Ned Stark's daughter.
Dangerous shit. Granted, I think that the Hound could cut Ned Stark down in a fight.
I agree. I think in a fight it's a no contest, but so the right side of his face is normal and he looks, like a relatively normal dude. The left side of his face, however, is a ruin. His ear is burned completely away, just leaving a hole. His left eye is okay, but all around it is scarring and black flesh as hard as leather, pocked with fissures and cracks that gleamed wet and red when he moved. And by his jaw, there is a hint of bone where the flesh had melted away.
Yeah, he's way fucking gross looking.
Yeah, he's a fucking scary dude. Sansa begins to cry, and I don't really blame her.
And that
and he just starts to think and says that most thought it was a battle. Siege.
That's when he let go of her.
Yeah.
Right then, when she
some
starts
siege
to cry.
or anything, and he laughs and says that I was 6, maybe 7, and there was a woodmaker that wanted to earn favor with my father, so he would send us wooden toys. And I don't remember what I got, but it was Gregor's toy I wanted because Gregor got a knight, and it had all the little joints. And,
I want that toy.
And it had strings, and you could make them fight. Like... this hate this story breaks my heart.
Me too, because there has literally been times where your oldest fucking brother has got something dope, and I wanted to try it out, and somehow I end up catching a fucking D-sized battery.
He's not my oldest brother. He's yours. I'm adopted.
Yeah, I wish that we were adopted.
Anyway,
that's fucked up to poor people that are wishing they could get adopted, and we're like wanting to get out of. You
said it. I didn't say
did.
it.
You said you were adopted.
I did,
but you're not adopted.
Well,
rude.
They didn't know that until you just called it out. You're blowing up my fucking spot. But anyway, so the Hound took it, and he said, but there was no joy in it because he was terrified that his brother was going to find him,
which is fucking sad.
And he said that Gregor was. He was
5 years older.
5 years older. He was already
12,
a squire.
12, 13 years old.
He was already squire, already 11, 6 foot.
Yeah, and so he had no want or desire for a stupid little wooden fucking toy.
So he just walked in, picked him up, and pressed his face down in the brazier in the burning coals, and he held me there while I screamed and screamed. And
even at 11 or 12 years old, it took 3 full-grown men to pull him off of the Hound.
And the Hound goes into about the Septons and their 7 hells, and he says that only a man who's been burned knows what hell is truly like.
And then he says that they gave him ointments.
Mm-hmm. His father told everyone that his bedding caught fire, and the maester gave him ointments, and I actually like the wordplay because he says that then my brother got his ointments as well.
His anointments. And then he says it again with the anointment. Now, do you think there's anything there that his father said that his bedding was caught on fire? And then I think it's this book, but when Sansa first has her womanly bleedings, she lights her own bedding on fire.
Well, she stuffs it into the fireplace and it smolders.
Her bedding gets caught on fire.
No. I mean, maybe that's a comparison to be drawn. I'd have to get to the Sansa chapter, so if you could be patient.
Whoa.
But
rude.
I don't know. Actually, I never really thought about it.
Yeah, hashtag suck that.
All right, you're using that a lot this time.
I am.
Like,
There's
chill
a lot of
on
hashtags.
Relax. Anyway, he says that 4 years after this, Rhaegar Targaryen tapped his brother's shoulder and told him to arise as Ser Gregor the Knight. And this is why the Hound has his distaste for knights. Knights are supposed to protect people and be honest and be noble.
Yeah, and Gregor's a fucking cunt.
Not only, like, this knight, but it's his older brother. Like, his older brother who, in a way, should have been his own knight protecting him. Fucking completely just broke this kid on what knights are. So he goes silent for a bit, and Sansa starts to feel sad for him, and the fear leaves her. She's not afraid of him anymore.
She feels bad.
She
and
realizes
those little courtesies kind of jump in again, that trained thought. So she feels she has to say or compliment him on something.
Yeah, so she tells him that his brother was no true knight. And the Hound just fucking roars at this, and he says, "No, little bird, he was no true knight."
I think that roar was kind of a mix of comedy. He's laughing, but at the same time,
I think it's like anguish laughter.
It's just like this, like he knows, he agrees.
He's
but
literally
nobody knows
the
better
complete
than him.
opposite of what a knight is.
Yeah.
And so it's this.
It's
not
the understatement
funny.
of the century.
Yeah, it's
is
just
what
not
it is.
funny laughter. And
she stumbles back, but he catches her before she falls, which I think is, I don't know, I kind of like that he scared her, and as she's tumbling in fear, he's able to grab and save her from falling there. But
the rest of the way, he said not a word, and he hails them a cart, and they get in the cart, and they ride the west. They ride the west of the way.
Where the fuck are you going? West.
What's west of Westeros? They ride the rest of the way into the city in silence, and then he leads her through a postern door into the castle and all the way up to her bedchamber. And she thanks him, and this is where he grabs her arm and leans in real close and says, "What I told you, if you ever tell Joff."
And she kind of cuts him off first and says, "Oh, I promise I won't say anything." And he's like...
And he finishes the thought. It says, it was not enough. If you ever tell anyone, I'll kill you. And chapter end.
Do you believe him? No, I'm just kidding. Of course we believe the Hound. He's crazy.
No, I think...
I think that he was too drunk, and he just told her a story that he's never told another person.
Yeah, no, I think she, in her Sansa-esque way, sort of disarmed him in that, like...
She is a clever...
Well, like, he could tell she was terrified, and so she's trying to just do these courtesies to get out of this situation, to get away from this man who's scaring the shit out of her, because that's the only weapon she's been equipped with at this point in life. And so I think he's not going to hurt this little girl, because all she's doing is what she's been told. You know, she's trying to be polite, but she's terrified. So I think a part of him is like, she's me. She's the little kid sitting there playing with the toy.
Yeah,
like, I'm not going to walk up and slam her face to the brazier. Like,
right.
I'm going to, escort her back to the castle and make sure no harm befalls her. I happen to be shit-faced drunk, so I happen to tell her a little more about my past than I wanted to, so I'm going to threaten her to scare her. But... actually, I would even say that, no, I don't think he would follow through on killing her. Like, I think the Hound is too smart for that, killing the Hand of the King's daughter. Like, I don't think the Hound would actually do it.
Yeah, I don't think she
I redact
sees
that
that
statement. No, she doesn't, but I do.
Okay, so your inductee for this chapter
is... damn it. I'm going with Creeper Baelish. Baelish, because that, Baelish. Like... it's in my fucking notes, man. That paragraph where he popped up stood out to me so much.
It was the most, when he walked away was what I was like, what?
Yeah, when he just turns and goes.
But yeah, she opens her eyes and looming over.
Yeah,
her.
it was because she's got this nice memory, like, oh, Loras, he's so hot. I wish I had a poster of him above my bed. And opens her eyes and there's Littlefinger breathing heavy. So yeah, Littlefinger.
Like Igor from Frankenstein.
Welcome to the Brotherhood for this chapter. Actually, hey, we're not running too long here.
We are running pretty long. So I'll give my inductee, we'll give some socials, and then we'll call it a night. So I even wrote mine down to show that I actually had one this time. So I picked Jamie, And the only reason being, you know, he got knocked on his ass, not during the tourney, but by the king at the feast. And he's one of the most fucking pompous, egotistical fucks. To get knocked down and keep his mouth shut, you know, that takes some fucking self-control that he clearly isn't capable of usually. Look at the 3 kids he has. And good on you for not getting up and just killing another fucking king.
Do you think... I mean, fuck it. It's sort of a discussion. Do you think Joffrey would have been better off knowing Jaime was his father and learning from him more than from Robert? Kid killer. I mean, Joffrey shoved a kid, or Jaime shoved a kid out of the fucking tower. I mean, and he's not a great dad either.
It's the way that Martin writes, you know, that nobody's black and white. There's no good or evil. You know, everyone's got those shades. Jaime... Early on, not necessarily, because I think it would be very similar to how Joffrey already is. But if it was a little later when Jaime starts wisening up, then obviously, yes, Jaime's a great figure with the honor and the virtues. If he could express how he feels and why he did what he did with enough, you know, conviction to Joffrey... to show that he killed the king not just because he wanted power, that there, you know, it was for the good of the people, and kind of teach him those types of things, sure, but I think that's hard to answer without knowing where and whatnot.
Acceptable answer. Anyway, those are our thoughts on Catelyn 5 and Sansa 2. We do apologize that we went a little bit over our little normal timeline, but you know, it is what it is, right? They were 2 good chapters, and I think they went together.
Very well together.
So, as always, let us know your inductees either for these 2 or the next chapters. The next chapters that we will be reading are going to be Ned 7 and Tyrion 4. Not necessarily combined, because the next chapter of Ned is going to be probably another long one, actually.
That one's got a lot of
very
pages
long
in
chapter.
it, so it's unlikely that will be combined.
But, let us know your inductees for those, or even these chapters.
All over the place. Twitter, @MannersWithout. Instagram is what? Brotherhood Without? @Brotherhood Without?
Yeah.
Our Gmail is withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. We are on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, Castbox, you name it.
Rate and review, whatever you can do.
And like, subscribe, rate, review, whatever those words do or mean, you know. And I think there was something else. Oh, our Patreon. We've got our Mercy chapter up there. Go check it out. It's patreon.com/mannerswithout. Or, yeah. Without Manners. I forget which one exactly. But
one of those.
Brotherhood Without Manners on Patreon. We're there. Check it out. We appreciate it, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. So, until next time.
We'll see you for Ned 7.
Vala Margulis.
Dohaeris.
Ah, shit. Peace.